Hi, I'm Jazz. I'm an alcoholic and I'm codependent. I work a 12-step program and I seek health. I am a seeker and a traveler. The first day that I got out of rehab was a shock. The first day I got out of rehab, I was super scared. I wasn't very prepared. It hit me like a ton of bricks. I did not get the chance to go to a second stage living facility, which at the time I think would have been really cool and would have helped me a lot. Somehow I still stay sober anyways. So when I'm in treatment, they said, here's a piece of paper. We want you to write up your recovery plan and just think about like how you're going to get to meetings and where you're going to get a sponsor. What are you going to do every day for your recovery? Like, are you, reading the daily meditations or doing gratitude lists, like little exercises and things like that. So I was in the mindset of recovery and how am I going to implement recovery and put that into my life at home. So I was just thinking like, oh, okay, like that's easy. Like that's no problem. I can just, write this out. Going to go home and do this and it's going to be no problem. I get picked up from treatment and I'm very excited, but I'm also very scared. So a lot of fear with driving home. And I don't know where and why. I guess just debilitating anxiety. It would have been nice to have something to cope, but I was sober and raw and uncomfortable, extremely uncomfortable. So I'm driving home to a very energetic household. My kids were 1.5 and 2.5. My parents were there, and at the time, my mother and I didn't really get along very well. There wasn't any boundaries. There was unresolved things that I was still walking back into. I didn't know how to deal with that then, but anyways, that's another thing. Going home, and I knew to get to a meeting the first night, even though I was kind of thinking about not. Anyways, I get home, sitting outside. I'm thinking that when I get home, I'm just going to be totally fine. It's going to be chill and everything's going to be cool. And I was very sensitive and shy, and I wasn't the most physically in shape in a way, like because I was drinking so hard for so long, my brain was slow. I couldn't talk very fluently. I had trouble thinking. I was, it was just like I was moving through sludge, and that's the way I was operating on my way out. Like, I guess I expected that I was just going to be so optimal and on at home because that's how I was feeling at treatment. But at home, it was so hard to handle everything. It was just hard to handle everything. And I think that just made my, operating me a lot slower and more difficult. Like I didn't know how to use the machine. I didn't know how to use this sober individual. I didn't know what to do. I didn't have any of my recovery tools set yet. I had no boundaries in my life. I didn't have a sponsor yet. I was just sober. So my recovery life at home hadn't began. And I get home and my mom starts bringing up a really inappropriate topic about my sister that had something she had an accident years ago and she had a really bad brain injury. So she wasn't herself anymore. And she starts talking to me about her. And I just remember not being able to handle thinking about my sister. There still was a lot of trauma and loss and sorrow that I was working through about my sister's accident because we were just 2 years apart. So she's bringing that up, and I don't really even know how to stop the conversation yet. Like I don't have the tools. It's just all coming at me, and no defenses. Like everything's just hurting me. Everything's going in and hurting me, and I'm taking things personally. And people keep asking me, like, are you gonna drink? And how are you doing? Like, what do you need? And there was just so much attention. And I hated the spotlight. I hated it. I didn't want to talk to people, but I was just back at home with family, and my little boys were there, and it was just sort of like, well, you've been gone for 6 weeks. Here they are. So it's just like right then I had to figure out how Sober Jazz is going to take care of children and life and income and all of the things that just a basic person in life needs to take care of. We're all very challenging. It was so hard to do those things. I was in, I had like $40,000 in debt, racked up credit cards, burned bridges everywhere. Nobody trusted me. Nobody liked me. I didn't like me. I was very overwhelmed, and a lot of these things were on my mind. And I wasn't prepared to deal with my kids' needs so quickly. It was a lot. So I wasn't prepared for that. It was a shock. So I'm getting overwhelmed, and I just remember thinking like, I need a break or something, like I'm going to lose it. And so my girlfriend's like, well, why don't we just go take a nice little drive to the grocery store? So I'm like, okay. So we go drive to the grocery store. We get to the grocery store, and my son drops a glass jar of sauce or something, because he's 1.5. So he drops it out of the cart. The whole thing just smashes, and the stuff just went like just straight across the aisle. And it was such a mess. And I remember panicking, trying to call down a guy to come over and help us clean this mess. And we're trying to direct people around us because it's very slippery. Sure enough, there's a lady come walking, about to go walking right through, just living her best life and about to crack her head open. So I go and I'm like, oh, and slow her down, and she doesn't notice. So she hits the dressing stuff and she starts going for the ground. I jump in there, I catch this woman, and she's got red sauce all over her shoes. I'm holding her, and this is just like an extreme amount of things. Like I was just barely holding it together. Like my first day out of rehab, and I'm holding this strange woman. And so I'm just like, could this get any worse? So anyways, that scenario ends. Now it's just like, we got to go again. I need another break. So we're driving down the road, and I'm just freaked out. I've got 2 hands on the wheel, and I'm driving 40 kilometers an hour, and I can barely handle myself. I'm just deep breathing and not feeling okay. And, all the windows are down. It's a nice summer day. This was in May. And I'm just trying to cope or something. I was not okay. Like my nervous system was just freaking out. And I'm driving, and I'm driving way too slow, because that's as fast as I could go. I probably shouldn't have been driving. Hadn't driven in months. And so this guy in this big, huge truck just, yells at me and honks and drives around us. It was so loud, and his truck was so loud, and he was so vulgar, yells some nasty thing to us. And I'm like worried. I'm like, gee, like, I have kids in the car, and like they can hear that. And I also feel very attacked by just the aggressive language that he used, name calling and stuff. And we get home, and that was it for events, for sure. And I think I went to a meeting that night. But the thing is that I think that it would have been nice to have also like an entire day to plan out the next week, like what my recovery plan was, like not just write it down on a piece of paper, but almost things like I should have set up more daycare or a little bit more time off from the boys just to kind of maybe ease back in. Like I probably should have spent the first day out of rehab alone. I think just being at home in my room, in my bed, and maybe just to have one day of breath to plan my week out, set up which meetings I was going to go to. And I think just to have not a lot of visitors, but like AA people, fine, like stay connected in that way, but maybe just not a lot of other people that I used to hang out with or that were going to ask me lots of questions. Like I think it would have been nice to have a bit more privacy, like not isolation, but just to give myself a bit more time to walk in my new shoes of recovery. To just slowly go back into it. And for me, it was just extreme chaos the second I left. It was so hard. I barely could keep it together. I was just vibrating inside with so much anxiety. So somehow I made it through because I was committed to staying sober and to the change. So that little bit of program there, like it helped me get through. But if I could set myself up, a bit better, if I could go back, that's what I would do for sure. Is just have a bit, if I was able to have a bit more time off, and because I didn't know how to, I didn't know how to handle anything yet. Like I didn't know how to handle the questions of just like, are you going to go drink right now? And what are you doing? And how are you doing? And like, are you okay? And I wasn't prepared for like how much people didn't trust me. They thought I was, the version that I left in. And that makes sense for sure. But I had done some work in there. I was changing. I was working on myself, and that's just a small part of the story. It's not like all that I did so much changing in those 6 weeks. It's just that I wasn't as tippy, I guess, as they were expecting me to be. It would have been nice to have a little bit, maybe more people around that had a bit more faith in me. I think that would have helped a bit. So it was really hard getting out. It was really hard. I really remember that day so clearly, and just, I was not prepared for how sensitive I was going to feel and how personal I was going to take everything. And I was just fragile and raw, and it was just a really, really bad time to be out of the bubble. And so basically I had to take, everything that was successful in the treatment center. The work that I had to do was to take that environment that was keeping me sober and then create that environment outside of the treatment center for my life. So it was like in treatment, I had all the things, but now it's like, how do I get all of that going here? And my life for about 3 months after that was dedicated to those 90 meetings in 90 days. And it did more than that, but it was dedicated to putting recovery first. And that's all I did was take care of my kids and me, and then just do meetings and meetings and meetings and talk on the phone. And, that was such a nice time. It was a nice time, but it was a hard time. It was just, it was nice that I didn't have to go to a job, at least on top of all that. That came soon enough, but it was an extreme event to go from rehab to home. for sure. So if I could share to anyone that, just brace yourself for how you're going to feel. Like I wasn't really thinking I was going to feel any different. And that was such a shock. Like felt so cozy in the center, and just by being physically somewhere else, I guess without everything, like, I didn't think that feeling was going to change. I thought I was going back home and that whole feeling was going to come with me. And it was like I was just stripped of it all. I was stripped of all the comfort and the safety. And I was like on my own to figure this out right now. Like, how are you going to survive in every single way possible? Like, and how are your little kids going to survive? There's a lot of how that goes right into it. So it was lots. But I'm really glad that I'm here today and that I'm sober, and I would not want to go back to that time. My last drink is so far behind me, and I want to keep it that way. And so I just do everything I can to keep my recovery first. It's very important to me. It's giving me my life today because I nurture it. Thanks.